Hello YouTube, welcome back to another book review from me, your host, Logan Albright. Today I'm talking about a book called The Wizard by H. Rider Haggard. Now, let me say a little bit about how I came across this book. I was in a used bookstore in September of last year, and I was looking for horror paperbacks to do my October horror paperback review, which I did last year for Halloween. The month of Halloween, I do horror paperback reviews. And I was trying to find good stuff. And I happened across this book. It's a hardcover. And I knew H. Rider Haggard because I've read, he's famous for King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quatermain and She. And I've read two of those. I've read King Solomon's Mines and I've read She. But I had never heard of this one. But I liked stories about wizards. I liked stories about magic. And I thought, that sounds pretty cool. And I like H. Rider Haggard's work. So I decided to pick this up. It's a cool cover design, nice hardcover. And I didn't know anything about it at all. And it sat on my shelf for, 5 months. And I just forgot about it. And then I picked it up the other day and thought, oh yeah, I bought this. I should read it. And it ended up not being what I expected it to be at all. First of all, this is a kind of a middle novel in a long career. H. Rider Haggard wrote like 50-something novels over the course of his career, and this comes somewhere in the middle. It's not one of his well-known ones, and it's not one of his well-regarded ones, largely because, well, first of all, the story is pretty simple, and second of all, there's some colonialist elements that have to be acknowledged in there, and I previously did a video on She, and a lot of people were complaining in the comments about the colonialist nature of H. Rider Haggard's writing. It is what it is. He's a 19th century British writer, writing at that time period, he has his point of view, and it hasn't aged particularly well, I suppose, but I still enjoy his adventure stories, and I don't really care too much about that sort of thing. So anyway, I decided to read it, and the interesting thing is I discovered that this edition is actually a first American edition from 1896, which I had no idea. I did not expect. And it's an original copy, and it's not worth a terrible lot of money, but it's worth more than I paid for it, and it's in reasonably good condition. So that's pretty exciting. I'm not really a collector of books in terms of like first editions or high quality or rare books. I just collect books because I like to read them. But it's kind of a cool find to find something like that without even trying to. And that explains why the cover is so old-fashioned and looks so cool. But it wasn't about what I thought it was going to be about. I thought it was going to be about like turn of the century English magic, Order of the Golden Dawn kind of stuff, like an Aleister Crowley figure or something. But it's not about that. It's a story, a very Christian story, about the Reverend Thomas Owen, who decides to go on a pilgrimage to Africa. One of his colleagues has come from Africa and complained that the tribes there are not being receptive to his missionary work. And he's like, oh, can you believe it? I went to see this tribe, and they were like, if your God is so powerful and can do all these miracles, let's see some evidence of it. Like, let's see some miracles. And he was like laughing and saying, oh, these stupid foreigners, they don't understand how our religion works. And Thomas Owen is like, well, actually, they've got a point. Like, if we believe this, and if we believe the Bible is true, and the disciples of Jesus can do these amazing things, we should show some evidence of it. We should meet their demands, and it'll be regarded as a test of our faith. And so he says, I'm going to go and meet with this tribe, and I'm going to show them that Christianity is true. And so he goes and he meets with the king, and the king is basically says the same thing. He's like, let's see the proof of this great religion you're preaching. And there's the king's kind of head magician, who's the wizard of the title, the witch doctor in the village, named Hakoza, and he is basically the antagonist, and he views Thomas Owen as a threat, and they sort of have a competition of their two different religions to see which can be the more powerful, which can conquer the hardship of life, or deliver them from evil, or help them in war and things like that. And Thomas Owen has to have his test of his faith to prove that his religion is the strongest. And really what it's about is it's about the power of kind of overcoming evil with good, and turning the other cheek and loving your enemies. And it's, Hakoza tries to undermine or harm Thomas Owen in a multitude of ways throughout the book. And every time Thomas Owen is like, I forgive you. Christianity is all about forgiveness, and goodness has to come from within. And, I'm just going to treat you with kindness, and, you know not what you do, all that kind of stuff. And it's about trying to win over. So it's interesting that he's the title character, because Hakoza, you'd think that the Reverend would be the title character, but no, Hakoza the Wizard is really what the story is about, because it's about his conversion of trying to, be shown through successive acts of extreme kindness that he has been treading the wrong path, and that he should abandon evil for good. And I think that's an interesting story, an interesting kind of twist on this otherwise very simple story. It's There's not much to the plot of going to Africa and trying to convert this tribe, but the fact that the antagonist is really the main character and it's really about his spiritual journey is a fairly interesting little twist on that idea. Now, I'm not a Christian myself, and I have significant problems with some of the doctrines of Christianity, but I think the emphasis on love is good, and I appreciate that, and I think there's some wisdom in that. And so, I enjoyed this book. It's not one of his best books. It's not. I've read 2 of his other books, and I would say I like both of them better than this one. It's a little bit straightforward. It's a little bit simple. It's a little bit didactic, a little bit preachy in terms of just trying to say what Christianity is all about and how great Christianity is, and showing, educating the world about it. That's pretty much all there is to it, really. And it's not my favorite style of book. I think you can be too heavy-handed with this sort of thing, trying to preach your message, and it's better just to tell a story. But in terms of a tale of spiritual conversion, it does have some merit, and I thought it was interesting just because I'm interested in the edition of the book that I have, which is pretty cool, and I'm interested in the fact that I'd never heard of it, and I wanted to just check out another H. Rider Haggard book, because he's written very, very many of them, and most of them I've never heard of. So I don't have too much more to say about the Wizard. It's got some nice illustrations in here. See if I can find one for you. They have these kind of engravings. Here's one. Look at that. It's full of those. Very nice. And if you're a fan of kind of British 19th century fiction, or if you adventure stories, or if you like Christian fiction, you might find something to enjoy in the Wizard. It might be worth your time to check out. But I was glad I picked it up. I like going into books completely blind and knowing nothing about them. It's always kind of fun to discover what they are along the way without having kind of any reputational effects of knowing what they're going to be. And I quite enjoyed it, although it's not one of my favorites of his. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the story of the Wizard. There's really not much more to it than that. It's a fairly simple story, but it's always nice to discover new things. So that's my review for this week, is of The Wizard by H. Rider Haggard. Let me know if you've read it, if you've read other books by the author, what you think about them in the comments. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed this review. Subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. What else? Comments, bell, subscription, all that kind of stuff. You know what to do. And I will come back to you next week with another book review. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm always looking for new books to read, but I'm sure I'll find something interesting to review for you all next week as well. Short one today, but that's all I've got. So hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching.